No intro today. I'm just going to get straight into ranking every Pokemon in the ADV OU metagame. Or every viable Pokemon at least. We're going to start off with Tyranitar. I'm going in the order of the previous VR. Perhaps I should have prepared a thesis for this, as I'm one of the few people who don't think Tyranitar is the best Pokemon of the tier, but I still think it's a clear S rank. However, I do think S minus may be arguable. But if you want to put Zapdos or something up there, but I mean, I don't really think so. I think S is clearly where it belongs. And when I say arguable, I mean I do not believe that myself. And I don't want to say my opinion's extreme, but it's more towards the unpopular side that Tyranitar is not the best Pokemon in the tier. So I feel like I should not be justifying an argument that nobody will make. But yeah, overall, Tyranitar is a great Pokemon. Pursuit is amazing. It allows you to make many other advantageous choices in the builder. My personal favorite set is Dragon Dance, as I believe Tyranitar is best suited for offense because it's an amazing check to Pokemon, but it's not a good counter to Pokemon. So if you were to look at a bulkier team, the way I structure it, usually focus on having a way to break and then just walling everything. Tyranitar is not great at walling things. It's a good check, and admittedly, it's an okay breaker, but truthfully, I find it to be worse than something like a Rest, T-Bolt, HPS, Toxic Zapdos, or a Hariyama even, which are far more consistent at breaking down the opposing team. Tyranitar really just doesn't have that. So outside of Pursuit on more defensively oriented teams, or Dragon Dance, Choice Band is my second favorite set, which is another unpopular opinion, I'd imagine. Dragon Dance, then Choice Band, then Pursuit. Yeah, other than on offense or using Pursuit, I think often you should avoid using Tyranitar as it defensively just does not really counter anything. And as a breaker, again, I don't think it's the most consistent if you're putting all your eggs into one basket, especially because it's Doug Trio week. For example, a team I used in SPL, Yama, Choice Band Ments, Claydol, Suicune, Blissey, and I don't remember what the last is, but the important part of this is saying, well, let's say I put a Tyranitar over the Hariyama. Which, I mean, this isn't the best argument because obviously the team was designed with Hariyama in mind. But even defensively, it's not that big of a deal. Yama does resist rock, which the team likes. Oh, the last was a Osteroch. No, Fiorachi, yeah. Which could take on rock types. That team could defensively be sound with a Tyranitar. It did not need a Hariyama. But Hariyama is so much better and consistent at breaking open a team when it doesn't have too many other Pokemon helping it do so. Against the defensive team, Hariyama could really just break open the opposition with wish support. While Tyranitar, you can throw out focus punches into Swampert, but ultimately, if you're not applying more pressure, then what is it for? So I just think on many more defensive teams, you really have to have a purpose with Tyranitar. Tyranitar, Arrow, Skarmory, Gengar is great because the damage Tyranitar does stick. But on many more defensive teams, simply what Tyranitar is accomplishing, it isn't accomplishing anything. It's throwing an attack, switching, they recover, and you're not applying further pressure. Well, something like knockoff. God, I am talking about Yama way too much. But it's a good Pokemon. Does wonders. And that's why I think Tyranitar isn't as good as other people think it is. But I also use offense less than your average player. Tyranitar on offense is absolutely stellar. It's really great. Skarmory, I think, might be the best Pokemon in the tier. I'm going to really think about it versus another Pokemon in a bit. Spikes are wonderful, and Skarmory is the best spiker. And the traits it have are amazing. It has the flying type, making it immune to other spikes, which is really big for it. And in conjunction, it has the steel type, which is helping it against what would otherwise become weaknesses in rock. And is that actually just it? Is that the only thing that steel resists that flying is weak to? Yeah, overall, its typing is nice. It's an amazing check to a ton of Pokemon. Spikes really define the metagame. They're a great progress maker for every single type of team. Metagross is interesting. I think it's absolutely a plus. Where I'll put it within a plus, I will have to determine. Metagross is wonderful defensively, and offensively it's not too shabby as well. However, without a Magneton, you're going to be really whiffing into Skarmory, which is a big deal, but not something that you can't structure your team around being okay with. Choice Band is absolutely great in tournament play. Just having a Pokemon that can explode, throw off a strong explosion to deal Suicune, deal Snorlax, being a rock resist, absolutely wonderful. Agility Gross is nice as a cleaner. Yeah, absolutely great Pokemon. There was another point I wanted to make. Oh, Mash. A Mash raise is very broken. Yeah. Here we have Zapdos. I'm a really big fan of Zapdos, particularly Rest, Toxic, HP Ice, and Thunderbolt, with Roar or Metal Sound over Toxic being an option. It provides defensive teams a way to always win the game against any playstyle, against whatever, when paired with spikes, which is absolutely wonderful. And most importantly, on a teams that rely so heavily on spikes to win the game, this Zapdos set wins against Superman on the spot. There's nothing a traditional Superman team can do to beat it. Other than perhaps go guns blazing with Arrow and beat you before they lose, but that's not very high odds for them. Of course, if that was the only Zapdos set, it would not be this high up. Just standard sets on offensive. Thunder Wave is a wonderful move. Baton Pass is great for positioning. Zapdos is a defining part of mixed offense. It's a defining part of Superman special offense. It's just, there's so many wonderful ways to fit it. And being Spikes immune allows it both offensively and defensively to shine. Next up is Gengar. Gengar is absolutely amazing, being the best spin blocker in the tier by quite a lot. It's very consistent in what it does, however, well, the baseline of what it does, the minimum you can get out of it, you can make that very consistent. Especially with moves like Explosion and Destiny Bond. However, If it lands a Will-O-Wisp, that's really great, though it's only 70% accurate. If you could avoid a Pursuit Tar, maybe your Calmgar with a Rest if you really want to make me happy, and a Dugtree on the back. I mean, yeah, Gengar is an awesome Pokemon. I have trouble ranking it within these three because blocking spin is just very, very good. And it is very consistent and it has a very high highs. But it's harder to fit on a team than these other Pokemon. However, oftentimes you do have to fit it on a team to be good against Rapid Spin. And Gengar teams, when paired with Spikes, are some of the, I don't want to say the most consistent, but they have so many great playable matchups. So that's something going for it. Well, I guess when in doubt, I did say viability is a reflection of usage, which is, I believe, to be completely true. It's a reflection of optimal usage. So, obviously, no person's perfect, and that's why we're taking multiple VRs. So, I guess the question is, how many Zapdos, Metagross, and Gengar did I use in SPL? Because it's a reflection of what you have used, what you will use, overall usage. But I mean, SPL is a small sample size, but it's a decent reflection of what I will use in the future. So I definitely had more Zapdos than these two. I had 3 Gengar and I believe 3 Metagross. I do think I would use more Gengar, which does mean Gengar is more viable, but would I? Yeah, I think so. Swampert a great Pokemon. Defensively, it's amazing. Many teams are actually weak to it defensively. Like they can't cover it for some reason, which is quite impressive. But obviously, they can just slap HP Grass on a few Pokemon, toxic it with Scarab, and be fine. Yeah, it's a great glue. Amazing Pokemon. However, it lacks the prowess, I suppose, of a Pokemon like Metagross. Though, arguably, I would consider putting it up here, but I'm very indecisive, so I will conform to the mean opinion. I don't want to make this too long. Jirachi is a very good Pokemon. There's so many good traits. Wish is such a great move. Firachi, CM, there's so much it can do. Ostarachi ain't too bad. I've turned around with Reflect on it. Very great Pokemon. I'd rank it either above Swampert, below Swampert, or an A tier. I'm not quite too sure. For now, I will keep it behind Swampert. Yeah, I think Jirachi is worse than Swampert. Given that fitting CM Rachi can be difficult at times. And the more defensive teams that fit Wish CM, I find, often are at the mercy of moves like Roar and just the way spikes end up shaping the game. Here we have Blissey, which is absolutely S tier. I think it's better than Tyranitar. Do I think it's better or worse than Skarmory? Skarmory fits on more styles, and I had 6 Blissey, 5 Skarmory, and SPL. But if we were to look to what I'd use in the future, I mean, I'd imagine Skarmory would surpass it, though. Bliss without Skarm is very good. But Skarm without Bliss is also very good. I didn't use any Fernazi style teams. That's the first thing I think of when I think of a Skarmory team without Blissey. There's also Jolt Spikes and stuff like that. However, Blissey can fit on Skarbliss, and there are also Pokemon like Fortress that I'd pair Blissey with. And given the other options to make progress, Pokemon like Fortress, Hariyama, I mean, even Cloyster, I think that Blissey might just be the best Pokemon in the tier. I mean, before I thought this was a bit absurd, but I didn't consider the aspect of something like Fortress, making it so that Skarmory isn't too much better of a way of making progress. It's just something that's more consistent, fits on more teams. But I think all in all, Blissey should probably be used the most. Here's Salamence. Salamence is a wonderful Pokemon. I'd say it's certainly worse than everything here, but Dragon Dance and most definitely Mixed. Mixed is, I believe, the best Salamence that are wonderful tools, and the biggest part of Salamence I find is Intimidate plus the Bug and Fighting Resistance, which is big in not making your teams weak to fighting types. Here we have Celebi. Celebi combined Recover, Leech, HP Grass, Psychic. It has wonderful options. It's a decent breaker with Leech Seed. It can stave off Snorlax, Suicune, which is always big. It's a great partner for Blissey in making your team have more assurance if Dugtrio were to trap a Pokemon, then you still have a backup against special offense. Overall, it's wonderful. I'm not sure whether it's A minus or B plus. I will have to rank these other Pokemon to find out. Here we have Suicune. Suicune is wonderful. I'm probably not its biggest fan, but I really do like Suicune in the metagame. It has CM, it's great for making progress. It's a backup rockets, or it can switch into fire types. It can switch into Swampert, which, oh my god, that is so big. Like, don't take Suicune switching into Swampert for granted. The teams it fits on, oh my god, they need an off-turn answer so badly. Which is going to be Suicune or Milotic. Again, not sure whether it's that, or maybe it's this, or maybe it's this. I'm going to develop the tier list more before I make that decision. Here we have Claydol. Claydol is wonderful. Spin is so valuable. I'm not sure whether it's better or worse than Swampert, but it's going to be above Suicune, probably. Although I do believe Suicune is arguably better than Swampert. But I think I'm going to go Swampert here. But I'm not fully sure. Yeah, Claydol is probably here or here. Rapid Spin is really nice. It allows you to run cool combinations of Pokemon. Explosion is nice. There's just so much value to being a good spinner that is spikes immune and resistant to rock. I mean, what more could you ask for? It's immune to electric, too. Claydol has such a great typing. It's really, really awesome. Here we have Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl, I believe, is better than Salamence and worse than Jirachi. I mean, honestly, it's arguably better than Jirachi, but Rachi's a really good mod, and it fits on so many playstyles. Well, Aerodactyl, I don't want to say it's more limited, but it kind of is, to bulky offense, Superman, which is bulky offense, or I guess more balance, yeah. And like Tyranitar, Aerodactyl, and Hyper Offense. So there's that. And it's when you see Aerodactyl, you know what it's gonna do, but that's not necessarily. Well, it is a bad thing, but that doesn't mean that Aerodactyl isn't stellar. Because what it does is just so great. Being able to check so many things, being the fastest thing on the field. Yeah, Aerodactyl's great. It spikes immune, which is also big. But what it clicks is often very punishable. Here you have Dug Trio. Dug Trio might be A minus. I'd say either. Well, it's definitely below Salamence in my books. Well, is it? Salamence is great, and Dug Trio has a ton of flaws, but Arena Trap is also just so good of an ability. I think Dug Trio's flaws make it. Its flaws hinder it too much to be better than a Pokemon like Salamence, which really doesn't have any flaws. It doesn't have a. I mean, it has the flaw of not being perfect and being weak to ice. But other than being weak to ice, I mean, it's just so threatening. It does so many things, and there's no spikes holding it back. And it's not something that has to lock into a move and lose momentum. Like Trio, what it does is perhaps more consistent. You'll always be able to trap a Tyranitar, a Metagross, if you force it to, and that's absolutely amazing. But I don't think it competes with just how great Salamence is. Here we have Starmie. I mean, defensive Starmie. What is that? Sounds like a grandfather clock. What? I think it might be that clock, but I never noticed that it made a ticking noise. I don't know. Defensive Starmie is nice. Offensive Starmie is pretty. It fits on a few teams. Spin is just a really great move, but before I would have ranked Starmie above Celebi, but I don't know. Celebi might be better. But Rapid Spin is such a good move, but Starmie is such a terrible Rapid Spinner. But it also has so many cool traits. A Recover Bulky Water with Rapid Spin, Thunder Wave. But it's also easy for the Scarred player to go, yeah, I'll just beat Starmie, I'll just Toxic it, I'll just switch to Gengar. I can put in Dug Trio Rage, pursue Tyranitar. And it has ways around all this, but it definitely isn't the best at everything. I mean, it can switch into Metagross, Pert. Again, it's a great Pokemon, but I'm starting to think Celebi might just be better. Here we have Snorlax. I wonder if this clock is annoying. I don't mind it, but I wouldn't mind if other people mind it. I'll make a nice trip outside. Snorlax, I mean, it's just so damn hard to fit on a team. Because why is it hard to fit on a team? I don't know. But through experience, I know that Snorlax is not the best Pokemon, but it's not terrible. It has so many awesome traits. I mean, it's just very threatening. But I guess it requires too much support to be consistent. But its highs are very high. It's a great Pokemon. I guess at its peak. I don't know. It's just I really don't know. I guess it's because on defensive teams where you do not need its defensive utility, where you don't need this defensive teams where you're already sound against all these different threats, and you don't need further defensive support, i.e. teams where you could fit Snorlax, then Snorlax is not going to be a great breaker because it's not going to be a great breaker because it needs a lot of support to break. Whereas on these offensive teams where you can run all these different sets that do make progress and do so many great things, then your team doesn't have the defensive capabilities to allow you to do that. Yeah, I am glad I thought that through. I feel like I learned something from saying that. And now instead of a clock, we have the birds. Flygon is definitely better than Snorlax. I'm not sure exactly where I'd put it, but I am a fan of Superman. It's a good ground resist. I'll put it there for now. Here we have Mag. Mag. It's a usable Pokemon. It has some good traits. I'll probably shuffle this around a lot later. Moltres is also a good Pokemon. It's worse than Flygon, better than the other Pokemon, and so is Zard. I'll find out how to properly order this, how to put it in tiers when I have more Pokemon on the tier list. Hera is pretty awesome sauce, but it misses Mega Horn, so I don't really use it. And I don't use it because I don't think it should be used much because of that. So it's worse than Snorlax, I'd say. Milo, it has good traits. I'm not a fan of it. I think Suicune's generally better. But it does wall things better than Suicune often. At least most things. And Fori is a good Pokemon. It has so many great traits. I'll put it there for now. I'm going to have to think about where to tier these Pokemon. And Breloom's a good Pokemon. I'd rather use it than Mag or that. Maybe it's better than Milo. Spore is a really good move. I mean, I don't know how... Spore is such a good move. I mean, just that alone and the Focus Punch makes Breloom worth its weight. Effect Spore is cool sometimes, though it's only 10%. It's a rock resist. It could check Zapdos, kind of. It's cool. Gara is interesting. I don't know if I've ever used this in my life. Like, I'm sure I have when I was, like, laddering a few years ago. But, like, I don't know, man. It's just... Oh, I definitely stalled people with, like, UD Gyarados stall. Yeah. But, I don't think those teams are good, so it's gonna go here. Jolteon. It's a decent Pokemon. I'd rather use it than Terracross. Smeargle is also a good Pokemon. Yeah, Smeargle is a pretty good Pokemon. Does not seem... Smeargle is nowhere near the level of Celebi and Starmie, so... something to consider. Cloyster is... I think Gyarados is going to have to drop a tier. Is Cloyster better than it? Probably. I'm going to have to put a lot of thought into this. Smeargle is going to go down here. These Pokemon are pretty nice. They can all stay in here, I guess. I do use more Breloom. Because I think Suicune generally is a better choice than Milo. So that means Milo is less viable than Breloom, at least through my eyes. Smeargle, yeah, I'd rather use Smeargle than Magneton, I think. Would I? I, I don't think so. That seems generally accurate, I guess. Yama is wonderful. Probably like... Do I want to do this just for fun? Nah. Oh, I mean... Starmie is a pretty bad Pokemon. But I do use it quite a lot. I think it's worse than Superman, which is going to be Flygon tier. I think it's better than Fori. I don't think Fori is better. I kind of do. No, I don't. Yes, I do. I mean, Fori... No, I think Moltres is better than Fori. That's better than Zard. No, that's Moltres is better than Fori. Fori is better than Zard. Loom might be better than Zard, actually. Actually, no. Zard is a great Pokemon. Yeah, I think that's more accurate. Jinx, I don't know. Porygon 2, it does stuff. I'd rather use it than Gyarados. And maybe Cloyster. Red Ice is a good Pokemon. We'll see. I'd rather use Medicham than Heracross. But not that, so... Yeah, I think that is decent. And here we have Venu. I want to get this done in decent time. Venu, it's like a good Pokemon. It has sleep pattern. It misses. It's like Heracross tier, but like it's not as good. It's like Heracross in that it misses, but it's not like that great. It's not. It doesn't have as high highs. If it hits, I'm not as ecstatic. But if it hits, it is pretty good. It's probably C+, given how everything else is shaken out. Raikou's a pretty nice Pokemon. I'd use it from time to time. I mean, as much as I hate on Heracross missing, it's probably better than Raikou. But it's definitely better, way better than... Okay, so I don't think Heracross is way better than P2, but I think Raikou is way better than P2, which doesn't make sense. At all. Like, what? Yeah, that really does not make sense. So, the thing is, I don't think... Very rarely would I run a Porygon 2 without a Raikou. But very often would I run a Heracross without a Raikou. And it's probably more likely that I'd use a Heracross. But I don't think Heracross... No, if I'd use it more likely than that. Okay, yeah. It's accurate as is. Yeah. Unless I want to put P2 above Raikou, but no, I don't. Kingdra is a good Pokemon. I'd probably put it like there. It's worse than Betty, better than Hera. Vaporeon's a cool Pokemon. Acid Armor, Baton Pass is nice cheese, and I mean, Wish is decent. It's not something I'd really use. Chip misses. Yeah. It's not weak to Dog. Yeah, it's probably about there. I'd use it about as much as Venu. Blaziken's an interesting case. It has some cool qualities. It's okay, I guess. No, I think it's much more likely that I'd use it than not. But I don't think it's in the same tier as the Pokemon above it. Ludicolo. Yeah, it's probably about Vaporeon tier. And I think Camel is a bit better than these Pokemon, probably like here. Yeah, I think that's fairly correct. And Weezing, it has some really good traits, but I often find myself struggling to justify it on a team. So it's probably about here, a bit better than Camel, maybe better than Gara. Honestly, I think Gara might be better than Cloyster. Yeah, it is. And then Steelix, it's a good Pokemon. Is it a good Pokemon, actually? I used to think it's like the best thing ever, because, it has a ton of defense. I like that stuff, but it really isn't that great at anything. It's just not strong enough to hit back. Like something like Swampert, it walls something and it hits it hard back. Steelix does not do that. And it's Dug Weak, though it's not that Dug Weak. It's also Mag Weak, but it's even less Mag Weak because it can KO back with Earthquake. Clearly, it's okay. I suppose. I justified it once on a team. That team was pretty bad, though. Marowak, again, I don't know. I'd use it on, like, as a lead or just randomly throw it on a balance, perhaps, but I'm really unsure, truthfully. Registeel's a decent Pokemon. I would probably put it about here. Yeah. And Regirock, I think, is a bit better than that, so that seems fairly accurate to me. Alakazam, I think, is a good Pokemon. Probably like here. Encore, knockoff, though I think it's hard to justify if you're not using Encore. But it has some cool traits. Synchronize Will-O-Wisp onto a Gengar is cool. So yeah. Actually, I think it might be better than Steelix. Yeah, probably. You could also suicide it and trap with Dog. So, yeah. Yeah, some nice tools. Might be better. Might be worse than Lex. Not sure. Ampharos, would I ever use this? Probably not. And if I would never use it, I'm going to keep it off the tier list. Arcanine, I think the team meta used with it isn't too bad. Armaldo is pretty decent. Probably like here. Probably like here, actually. Huh. Yeah, a bit better than Kingdra, maybe worse than that. Knockoff is a good move, but it's very hard to justify over Yama. But it does have traits that allow you to justify it. Actually, no, it's not better than Kingdra. And it's not better than Heracross. No, yes, maybe. Huh. I think I got a bit excited. It's probably like there. Articuno's a good Pokemon. Probably a bit better than where. It's probably like there-ish. Healbell is really nice, and fitting Campbell is also hard. Fitting Weezing. Weezing has more defensive utility against fighters, though. And fighters are insane, so yeah. I will put it there. Missy is. It's okay. I don't really like the ABR team with it anymore. I also run Shadow Ball and Claydol sometimes. But when I use it to other people, yeah, and it's probably like worse than Campbell. Probably like there-ish. Roselia, it's decent, better than Arcanine. But again, I think it's pretty hard to justify. I think Rhydon is similar. Ursaring, I think, is decent. Dusclops is viable. Probably. It's probably better than Missy. Yeah, I don't think Missy has much viability outside that ABR team. But, I mean, the ABR team isn't that bad, and it's good into certain players. But I have to ask myself, would I rather use that, or would I rather use one of my own made Superman teams? Probably one of my own. So, yeah, I'll move Missy down. Honestly, it's worse than all these Pokemon. It's worse than that. It's better than Ludicolo. No, it's better than Vaporeon, right? Surely, no. Yes. No, it's worse than Vaporeon. Is it better than Ludicolo? I mean, not really. It's definitely better than Glalie. Glalie isn't that good. Entei, I think, is pretty cool. Probably like there. But it also requires a lot of support. And I mean, are you really fitting in Entei? Not really. I'll have Missy be the benchmark between Pokemon that I think are good and Pokemon that I don't. So I'll put Entei above that. Or Pokemon that I think are usable. Honestly, yeah, screw it. Slowbro's cool. I think T-Wave on a Seamer is nice. Is Flareon viable? Is it? Is it? Is it? I don't know, man. Scizor, I think it's a decent fish into some players. With, like, reversal. Probably there. I think Sableye might be okay, but I've never actually used it. I've just theoremonned it, so. But I do think it's worth mentioning because knockoff is really good, and I also think theory modding is just as valid as using a Pokemon because it's really the same thing. Pokemon isn't that complex of a game. You don't really need to test teams. That being said, I still do like testing teams, but you really don't need to. You don't need to test Pokemon to know they're good. The issue is I haven't been able to fit it on a team and be completely satisfied. But at the same time, there are players in which I would be able to fit it on a team, have it maybe be a bit overall worse, but have the team be better into a specific player, and that is part of the game. So because of that, I do think it's worth using and probably more worthwhile than Roselia. Flareon, no. I mean, it has. No, Flareon is bad. I'm not going to rank Flareon. Aggron, I've never seen a team I liked with it. I mean, each clan likes it, but. No, I have Rhydon on this tier list. And it's maybe a bit more effective. Slacking is pretty cool. It clicks buttons. It's gonna be like about there. Umbreon, I think, is worth using. Has Synchronize. Probably like about there. Houndoom's a Pokemon. Not a Pokemon I really would use, so. I think Marowak is a bit ranked too low. Probably about there. Yes, I feel happy with that. Azumarill is my favorite Pokemon of all time. But it is not viable, so I will refrain. Mantine, man, I want the Pokemon to be good. I'll put it there. It's probably feeling Glalie here. It's a bit better than Jinx. Houndoom's a bit better than Glalie. Jumpluff, it's a Pokemon. Ninjask, H-Clat uses it sometimes. I'll fill it in like there. No, it's definitely worse than... I would use Ursaring in a tour game. I absolutely would. There is no doubt about it. And Mantine is decent for fishing. So it's also there. In fact, these Pokemon are... I think Slowbro is probably worse than that, too. So I'll put it below Missy. And if I'm going to make Missy the dividing line, I'll move it down a tier. So I'd rather use this than all those Pokemon. And I'd rather use Mantine than... I would not rather use this Scissor. Yeah. And honestly, slacking ain't too bad. I think Triangles has kind of convinced me that it really is an effective Pokemon. It works. So I will put it there. I know Vapokudo had a Swallow team. I would probably rather just use Zapdos with Starf. But, I mean, at the same time, Endeavor's really cool. I don't know. Subtile is viable. It's more viable than this bullshit. I don't think these Pokemon are quite worth using. But maybe. I do think I'd rather... I would use Sableye in a tour game. Actually. I think Sceptile is going to be better than Missy. But it's less likely that I use this and this. And also, I do think player-specific, it's worse for me to use Missy. For me in particular to use Missy, because I feel like people would use things good against Mischievous against me. But that doesn't mean that the overall player base should necessarily use it. Yeah, I think the overall player base should use Missy, and it's just here because of me personally. And while I should be ranking based on my personal opinion should not be influenced by the way that I approach the game, but rather the way I think everyone as a whole should approach the game. And the way everyone as a whole should approach the game should allow Missy, should include using Mischievous, even though I specifically do not think it's a great bring for me in particular. Yeah. Okay. Dude, Jinx is so bad. It's not that bad. Is it that bad? It might be. Omastar, I think, is worth using sometimes. I don't know, man. Politoed might have a niche. Gardevoir is definitely viable. With Trace and a bunch of tricks up its sleeve for hyper offense teams. Probably worse than Slacking, worse than Vaporeon, better than Ursaring. Okay. I think Swallow probably deserves to be on here. Quagsire, I guess, against someone with high Suicune usage, in which you want to use a team that is very weak to Suicune, but otherwise effective into them, and maybe has something like a Swampert. You could throw in a Quagsire on there. Okay, good. It has some viability. Dragonite's a genuinely, decent Pokemon. Probably, there. No, it's better than that bullshit. Also, I think people... Well... I don't know, man. Missy's hard to rank. Because as I said before, I in particular really wouldn't want to use it in a tour game that I cared about. I'd probably use it in a random tour game, but yeah. But at the same time, like, do I think a random person, like any ADV player, should use Alakazam more than Missy? Probably not. But I do think they should use Dusclops more than Missy. Dusclops is genuinely not that bad. Tauros might be viable. Yeah, that's the thing with F tier. These are the might be viable Pokemon. I'm not actually sure if they are. Like, Chansey might be viable. Nah, Chansey's not viable. Right? There's no way. Yeah, Chansey's not viable. Like, Scyther might be viable. I don't know. Quillfish might be viable. T-Wave Destiny Bond. No, Clay don't exist in this tier. I read T-Wave Substitute Destiny Bond Spikes and UU, and I think that's pretty awesome, but I don't think it's something you could fit here. Lapras might be viable. I don't know. Hypno might be viable. A lot of these Pokemon just might be viable. So in F tier, I'll put Pokemon that I think might be viable, but I'm not sure. So I'll put Pokemon that I do believe are viable in this tier. Is Poliwrath not on here? You have to be kidding me. There's no way. It's a Poliwrath. Mi hermano en Christe. Buenas Poliwrath. Okay. Rose is probably better than this. Arcanine's probably better than this. Jumpluff is probably the worst of these. Oh, Donphan. Oh my god. Yeah, that has to go somewhere. Oh, and Cradily might be viable. Oh, it might be viable. I guess it goes in the might be viable tier. Nidoking, Nidoqueen. I did see a post about I think it's definitely viable. Yeah. And I do think Nidoking is viable. So probably like there. Oh no. No. Yes. No. Yes. Maybe? I'm not sure. It does kind of suck. Yeah, it might be viable. I've seen Lunatone. Again, it might be viable. I mean, at the same time, I could see something like Flareon being viable. There's some talk about Maynard. I don't think it's viable. What does Maynard do? Knock off Wisp? Like, actually, that isn't too bad. Actually, that's pretty bad. Is it bad? Is it? I don't know. It might be viable. So yeah, I will figure out on the VR when I submit it what I want to do with these Pokemon. I don't think it's worth spending any more time with any of these, though I could see Aggron and Nidoking and maybe Rhydon potentially being up here. I'm going to have to think that through, but I do not want to spend more time talking about these irrelevant Pokemon. So I'm going to go back through the VR, reorder Pokemon, and make some final decisions up here. And then I will figure this out. It could be something. I don't know. Blissey, Skarmory, Tyranitar. Yes, I will go with that. Zapdos, Gengar, Metagross, Swampert. Yes, and then Claydol, and then after Claydol, Suicune. I believe that having the tiers like this is nice, as it evens it out more so, I suppose. Is Superman an A minus tier team? Probably. So I think maybe I could consider doing something like this, but this does seem a bit sacrilegious. So I'm not too sure about that. And is this how I want the Pokemon to be ordered? Probably. Yes, Flygon. Yes, is Flygon up here? Yeah, Flygon is up here. Is Yama up here? Is Moltres up here? Is Fori up here? Yama is just so tempting to put up there because it can do something that really no other Pokemon can do. I mean, Skarmory, Fori can also make progress as well as it, but they have to fear Magneton while Fortress does not, which is just such a big deal to me. Yama is such a good Pokemon. I I'm really considering it. I don't know, but yeah, I think this order is fine. Yes, that's okay with me. Is Milo better than Mag? I mean, I no, I like Suicune too much. Smeargle, Lax, yeah, this seems fairly fine. I'm not sure whether or not I want Regis above or below Jolteon. Probably above. Medicham's really good. I could see it higher. However, it's such a pain to fit. Not like Jolteon isn't, but I have a clear team in mind when I think about Jolteon. I I think I'm gonna do the. Am I? Medicham is so threatening. It's actually insane. But the way Medicham dismantles many bulkier teams, something like Yama can as well, while being more defensively sound, which is worth considering. I have struggled fitting many on a team, but even though I'm saying I'm struggling it and usage is correlated to viability, Medicham is so worth using that I struggle through trying to use it more. So I do fit it on more teams, which isn't relevant to it fitting on teams, but it is relevant to the idea that usage is correlated to viability. You're going to want to use Medicham a lot. Or not a lot at all, but a decent amount, because it is a good Pokemon, and it has great matchups. But I think I'm going to. I don't know, man. So continuing on, I think Kingdra there is fine. It's getting into offense. Then we have Heracross. Yeah, it misses. It's fitting on Baldo's hard, but good Pokemon. I do think Heracross and Armaldo are a step above the Pokemon down here. So yeah. This seems fairly accurate to me. Misty could maybe be a bit higher. Again, it's hard for me to personally rank it. But yeah, actually, yeah, I'm fairly fine putting it here. Did I? Yeah, that's fine. No issues with that. The order of these Pokemon might be wrong, and Donphan is a bit low. I didn't notice that. I think Donphan's about there. Yeah, because Carnivore on HO, it's more likely to use that, but you're not very likely to use this. In fact, maybe this should be the difference in tiering, but I do want to keep F just Pokemon I'm unsure on. Which then makes it hard to do this anyways, so yeah. But I do think there's like kind of a dividing line between Donphan and Ursaring. And I'm gonna say that this is probably more accurate. Probably would rather use Entei than that, and probably would rather use Slowbro than Mantine. So I'll move Mantine back down here. Something to note is how much I am moving this stuff around. You know, I wonder if I were to make this another hour of the day, if it would change. But I think this is, at least in general, representative of my opinion, if not completely accurate to my opinion. Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time thinking about these Pokemon, because I'm not going to spend too much time using them. Jinx is really low. I mean, I am not a Jinx fan at all, but honestly, this might be the most controversial take on this. Honestly, Mantine's going down a tier. And Sceptile and Jinx. Jinx is moving up for the fact that I could be wrong. You know, well, at the same time, should you really rank based on what you think might be right, or based on your own experience and what you actually believe? I don't know. This seems fairly accurate. Oh, no. Mantine is not worse than Glalie. There's no way in hell. It's not worse. Yeah, it's not worse than that. Probably a bit better than Houndoom. Then back here, Nidoqueen up. Arcanine down a bit. This goes above that. Do I really want 3 Rhydons in a row? I don't know. I mean, Rhydon's better than that. Yeah. I think I'm fine with that. These Pokemon I'm unsure. Oh, I'm not unsure on Quagsire. Did I really have... I think I must have just, like, thrown it in here and then not moved it up. There's no way Quagsire should be that low. Quagsire is about here because you could justify using it in tour play pretty easily against specific opponents. Gotta make sure I look at this stuff more thoroughly. Yeah. So I think that's it. Yeah, this is fairly accurate. No more spending time on this, I guess. It might change a bit from now to when I submit it, but probably not.